podcasts are for. Podcasts are for sidetrack. I feel like half the time, it doesn't even matter if there's a central theme, because I think what I find is more interesting is the unexpected roads that you go down throughout the conversation and choosing. And I always have to make the decision sometimes where I'm like, all right, do I pursue what that angle was, even though I originally had this other thing? And what I've been finding is, yeah, just go with that. Go with whatever the instinct is like, if something is funny or something's interesting, I'm just going to run with it.
Hey, that's what makes your podcast interesting to listen to, honestly, is like, it's a genuine like conversation that you're hearing. And I'm over here plugging the podcast, fan of the podcast.
Thank you.
I think that's what makes it genuinely nice to listen to. And we worked together at one point, so I know that one, your voice is like conversational.
Yeah.
But two, I enjoy that dynamic, and I think that's how it should. I think and I'm not a huge. My wife loves podcasts. Like, she sleeps with podcasts, and there'll be podcasts where just people are talking by themselves. I think one podcast about Teen Mom. That's just this woman
just talking about her experience as a teen mom.
They're talking about the show Teen Mom.
Oh,
I know.
What? What?
Yeah, and then she's like, and she vamps, and she just kind of like loses track. Like, kind of like, it sounds like she's like one glass of wine deep, sitting on her porch, just talking about the newest episode. But I don't engage with it, but my wife loves it. But then, like, I listen to podcasts like Michael Ian Black had this one, like How to Be Amazing, where he interviewed people and talked about, like, I think he talked to Tabby Galveston from Rookie Magazine from Chicago, and that was the first episode I listened to. And Rookie Magazine does not apply to me. I'm not like a tween girl. And that interview was so conversational, and their age gaps are huge. They're from different experiences. And it was so nice and calming that I remember I was listening to it on an Amtrak, and I was like, man, I almost feel bold enough to talk to my neighbor here on the Amtrak. I'm not going to do it, but I feel I have the tools to do it, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I find that it's really interesting, the different kinds of podcasts that exist out there that even I personally subscribe to. Like, I have several podcasts that are very different in theme. The H3 podcast is very different than Chris D'Elia's podcast, which is very different than Joe Rogan's podcast, which is very different than Aubrey Marcus's podcast, very different than, what's his name? Tim Ferriss's podcast. Like, all of those are very different formats. The Bill Burr, Chris D'Elia is kind of like the rambling comedian, you know? And I do find that those are hilarious because of, you get to watch a comedian kind of come up with bits on the spot. I find that very funny. And then you have the podcasts like H3 podcast, where it's kind of like internet meme culture reacting. Some of those are hit or miss, but I find the most fun episodes are when it's the whole crew is just kind of bullshitting together. But then there are other things like Tim Ferriss's podcast where I'm like, I want this to be a structured interview where he really gets down to some interesting shit, because let's be honest, Tim Ferriss's voice is really boring. So his interview skills are really good.
Yeah.
And he gets really good answers from these really powerful people or really interesting people. And so it's like, I want different things out of different podcasts. So I think for mine, I give you exactly what I want out of my own podcast, and that's what this ends up being. I prefer conversations.
Yeah.
I interview a little bit, but like, I'm just trying to keep it productive and constructive. But I'm not like, I don't want this to be like, all right, now here's my other question for you, and then you give an answer. It's like, all right, cool, moving on. Like, no, I want to engage in where that goes and see kind of what the winding path is.
Oh yeah, I mean that's awesome. That's where I think like organic podcasts come from. I think I've only recorded, outside of the one I did with the sneaker one, in my lifetime, in my 30-year-old life, only recorded one other podcast, and it was like an adventure kind of podcast. Like, I think I was like doing voice work.
Oh wow! Like,
I never heard the
story?
end. I never heard the end of it. I never heard what it came out as. But it was weird because I remember going in, I recorded my lines, and I was like, oh, I'm recording lines. This isn't even...
It's not even really a podcast.
Yeah, it's a cartoon show without
the visual.
Video,
Yeah.
And so I was always like, I wonder how this process works. And it's great hearing and seeing setups and seeing how they work out, because it's cool. Because like in LA, there's like a huge market of studios that rent themselves solely to podcasts and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's a big market.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And like, there's audio engineers that's solely what they focus on. And I go, man, some of the best podcasts are done by people that do it all themselves. You don't have to do all of this.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's like, oh, well, in this podcast, we make a parody song or something. Okay, yeah, you need to have a studio.
Sure.
But, you know, it's not like, I don't know. It's not like, it feels more genuine like this. It feels,
yeah.
And that's what I want from a podcast. I want genuine, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I want authenticity. That's the whole point of this fucking thing. Is I want to get down to the real shit. I want people to hear conversations that maybe their friends don't enable them for, even though they might long for it. So, you know, the idea is that you're a fly on the wall in the conversation, right?
Yeah.
That you're just in the room with us. You're just listening. You can't talk. I'm sorry. There's no way to do it. Like you can't talk. You don't have a place in this conversation. But like I want you to be able to be in it and feel like, all right, cool. Like these are some people I feel like I could know, and I'm learning something interesting about them or their background. Or I also love to get down to the inside baseball of the way that people do things, especially artists. Like I love learning people's process because there's something that I can learn from that through in my own work, but applied in a different way.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I obsess over the book mastery all the time because that's kind of the concept is like, you know, apprenticeship and learning from others and applying various disciplines and bringing them together, or using unique insights from one discipline and applying it in a special way in another one, because it's not always going to be a direct translation.